This is Northern Light for Wednesday, August 5th. Good morning. I'm Monica Sandreski.
And I'm Catherine Wheeler. St. Lawrence County Sheriff says a plan to partner with ICE isn't moving forward after the state banned certain collaborations between ICE and local law enforcement.
It infringes upon the autonomy of the sheriff's office. I'm elected by the people to protect the people, and now I can't perform all the duties that I need to perform.
Also on the show, we'll get an update from a local reporter covering the trial of a man accused of killing his daughter in Essex County last year. She says the case has left a mark on the community.
The family should have some kind of comfort in knowing Melina won't ever be forgotten in Ty and likely the whole county.
And Chef Curtiss Hemm of the Carriage House Cooking School joins us for a quick weeknight dinner recipe that takes advantage of those farmers market greens.
All that's coming up on Northern Light. Stick with us. Northern Light is supported by Mountain Orthotic and Prosthetic Services, a full-service practice providing care for patients of all ages, with offices in Lake Placid, Plattsburgh, Malone, and Burlington. Online at mountainonp.com. And from Fortilla Presentation, helping to educate and recreate historical ventures of interest in the St. Lawrence region, fort1749.org. And from the North Country Children's Museum, Potsdam, now featuring a second floor of hands-on and minds-on exhibits and programs for children 12 and under. Open Wednesday through Sunday. northcountrychildrensmuseum.org. This is Northern Light. I'm Monica Sandreski.
And I'm Catherine Wheeler. St. Lawrence County Sheriff says a plan to partner with Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or ICE, is, quote, dead in the water. That's because the New York State Legislature banned those collaborations. Richard Haller has more.
Back in February, St. Lawrence County voted to allow the Sheriff's Office to join the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement's 287G program. This would have allowed local law enforcement to train with ICE and perform specific actions under federal oversight. County deputies would have been trained to search ICE's databases to see if anyone in custody at the county jail is in the country illegally. The deal was met with huge community pushback. More than 200 people protested against the measure and took up 4 hours of public comments at a county board meeting. And this was happening shortly after ICE officers had killed 2 U.S. citizens in Minneapolis. But then in May, Governor Kathy Hochul signed legislation that restricts local police from collaborating with ICE.
They do their job, although I don't like the way they're doing their job, but don't expect our local law enforcement to team up with them because we have other responsibilities for our local law enforcement.
St. Lawrence County's planned collaboration hasn't even started yet. Monday night at the county's monthly board meeting, St. Lawrence County Sheriff Rick Engel said that in a nutshell, the deal is now dead in the water. And he's not happy about it.
It infringes upon the autonomy of the sheriff's office. I'm elected by the people to protect the people, and now I can't perform all the duties that I need to perform. So that's one of the issues, and they should feel the same because it impacts their home rule.
Last month, Attorney General Letitia James sent letters to a dozen local law enforcement agencies that are already working with ICE to terminate those agreements by August 25th. But that prompted some pushback. According to WAMC, the Rensselaer County executive outside of Albany said he'll ignore the Attorney General's order. Republican St. Lawrence County legislator Joseph Lightfoot voted for the cooperation. He says the state is overriding local governance, but he says the county will comply.
You know, as a public officer in St. Lawrence County and in the state of New York, I'm obligated to, as is every other citizen, to abide by what the law is.
On Monday, a federal judge denied the federal government's motion to block New York's ban on 287G agreements. Governor Hochul says the state's decision is legal and will keep communities safe. Richard Haller, North Country Public Radio, Canton.
Meanwhile, immigrant rights activists say there's been an uptick of ICE activity across the state following the passage of that legislation. The New York Public News Network's Jimmy Vielkind reports.
Jean Aurelio and Jesus Carrion say they were nervous when they were summoned for an immigration check-in on a Sunday. Carrion came from Peru in 2022. He married Aurelio the next year, and they've been working to pursue his claim of political asylum. But Carrion and several other immigrants were detained last week at an ICE substation north of Albany. Aurelio watched.
It was just very hectic. I noticed a big white van leaving the back parking lot, and I thought, oh, yeah, something's happening.
Immigrant rights activists say the recent detentions are part of a trend. The group Hands Off NYC reports ICE sightings in the 5 boroughs more than doubled between June and July. The Capital Region Sanctuary Coalition says reports of ICE activity in the Albany area quadrupled in the same period.
There's been a surge.
That's immigration lawyer Matthew Borowski. He represents some of the immigrants detained in the recent raid and says ICE is getting bolder.
I've seen them taking more extraordinary steps to detain as many people as possible.
Federal officials say they're committed to enforcing the law. Trump administration border czar Tom Homan said the uptick in arrests follows a new state law which bans formal cooperation agreements between ICE and local police. Last month, Homan joined conservative commentator Glenn Beck on a podcast and said he warned Governor Hochul this would happen.
I told her, okay, now you forced us to send more agents to New York.
Hochul says she stands by the law. She and other officials say ICE should focus on catching criminals. Congressmember Paul Tonko is a Capital Region Democrat.
This is such an aggressive approach to go well beyond the intent of the law that it's causing havoc out there in the community.
He recently finished an inspection of the ICE detention center in Batavia. It's the place where Carrion is still being held. In Albany, I'm Jimmy Vielkind for the New York Public News Network.
Homelessness in New York State dropped by around 8% in 2025 compared to the previous year. That's according to a report from the state comptroller. But officials say the share of children who are homeless is still stubbornly high. The New York Public News Network's Aurora Berry reports.
Just under a third of homeless New Yorkers are children, more than double the rate of the rest of the country. Several regions in the southern tier have child homelessness numbers below the statewide rate, but almost all are higher than the national rate, which is around 14.5%. The statistics are divided up regionally into continuums of care. In the continuum of care covering Steuben, Allegheny, Livingston, Chemung, and Schuyler counties, nearly a quarter of the people experiencing homelessness are children. The rate in Broome, Otsego, Shenango, Delaware, Cortland, and Tioga counties is around 19%. The Tompkins County continuum of care is one of 2 regions with a rate below the national average. 11% of the county's homeless population is made up of children. In Ithaca, I'm Aurora Berry for the New York Public News Network.
In the North Country, the report shows just under 20% of people who are homeless across Jefferson, Lewis, and St. Lawrence counties are children. It's just over 20% in the Glens Falls, Saratoga Springs area, including Washington, Warren, and Hamilton counties as well. Franklin and Essex counties are reporting 0. Data from the state comptroller's report was pulled from a point-in-time count on one night in January of 2025. This is NCPR.
You're listening to Northern Light, only here on North Country Public Radio. It's 10 after 8. Good morning. I'm Monica Sandreski.
And I'm Catherine Wheeler. Stick around. Chef Curtiss Hemm joins us this morning for a light summer dinner recipe.
That's in just a few minutes here on Northern Light. But first, we'll hear more music from Joe Phillips of Warrensburg. Support for Northern Light comes from the Northern New York Community Foundation, serving Jefferson, Lewis, and St. Lawrence counties since 1929, helping donors fulfill their charitable giving goals to forever strengthen the places they love. Online at nnycf.org. And from 7 News and Fox 28, CBS and Fox affiliates, serving the North Country with local and national news and entertainment. And from the Tug Hill Tomorrowland Trust, protecting working, recreational, and wildlands in the Tug Hill region for over 30 years. TugHillTomorrowlandTrust.org.
The trial of a man accused of killing his daughter in the Adirondacks last summer is in its 3rd week. 46-year-old Luciano Frattolin and his 9-year-old daughter, Melina, went on a trip together in the United States last July. They were on their way back to Montreal, where she lived with her mother, when Frattolin reported Melina missing. That set off a search that ended when her body was found in a pond in Ticonderoga.
Essex County prosecutors say Frattolin drowned Melina, then hid her body. Frattolin has said his daughter was abducted by 2 men in a white van. He's pleaded not guilty to charges of murder and concealment of a human corpse. Carly Newton with the Plattsburgh Press-Republican newspaper has been covering the trial. She told Champlain Valley reporter Kara Chapman that police investigators have laid out how they were able to track Frattolin's vehicle the night his daughter went missing.
Investigators said they used license plate readers all along the Adirondack Northway on July 19, 2025, and data from the chip inside his vehicle was actually able to place his vehicle near the area where Melina was eventually found dead as well. That was a big part of the case in trying to track his location. Other important highlights in the last few days of the trial have been about the notes seized as evidence in Luciano's vehicle by police. Most of the notes were handwritten and detailed thoughts Luciano had about Melina, including one in July of 2025 that said, "Don't let Melina suffer anymore and have a difficult upbringing."
So what is the prosecution saying that those notes mean?
They haven't really tried to say anything about what the notes meant. It's more so of just presenting that to the jury right now and, trying to build the case about what was going on in his mind at that time. These notes were all found and dated June 2025 and July of 2025. So they've been important in, I guess, just trying to figure out, what was going through his mind at the time.
And there's also been, video and interview evidence presented, right? Can you talk about that?
Yeah, so there was about a 30-minute video that was played in court that showed when police discovered Melina's body in the shallow body of water off of State Route 74 in Ticonderoga. In that video, you could see Melina floating in the water under what appeared to be a downed tree, and there was a large rock laying on her abdomen. That was, I think, difficult for a lot of people to see, but, important, obviously, to this case.
And what does the defense say happened? How are they trying to make their case?
The defense, from my understanding, believed Melina had been abducted on the night she was reported missing to police when Luciano reported it. As it's been reported, Luciano previously told police she was abducted by 2 men in a white van with no windows or doors in the back from a rest stop off of I-87 in Lake George. It appears they're sticking by that story, but investigators have testified in this trial so far that no white vans matching that description have ever been located by police, and there were traffic stops conducted and plenty of video footage reviewed in attempts to find one. There were a couple that investigator Brady Conlon said he tracked down personally himself, and he had talked to one guy in particular who had a Florida license plate. He ruled him out pretty easily. He had GPS location tracking him the entire time he was on a hike. There was one other one he said, but that person was also ruled out. So that never appeared to be a serious lead in this case.
And does the defense plan to call any witnesses, and is Frattolin expected to take the stand?
As of right now, I don't have any knowledge of what witnesses the defense plans to call, if any. I also have not been informed if Luciano will take the stand or not. So that remains to be seen.
What's expected next in this trial? Do you anticipate things are going to wrap up soon?
From what I'm hearing, the trial should be wrapped up sometime this week, maybe even the next day or two. However, court's unpredictable, so I'm just taking it day by day at this point.
Carly, how big of a deal is this case, not just for the community of Ticonderoga, but also the region?
Being that I'm from Essex County, I've heard of firsthand how big of a case this has been to the area. Last year, I attended a vigil that was held for Melina in Ticonderoga's Bicentennial Park. There must have been hundreds of people who showed up to pay their respects to a 9-year-old girl none of them had ever met. If you drive along Eagle Lake State Route 74, the neighborhood there installed signage along the roadway that says Friends of Melina Frattolin in remembrance of her. Incidents like this make a mark on a community like Ticonderoga because they just don't happen there often. So when they do, it's like a shockwave throughout the town. The family should have some kind of comfort in knowing Melina won't ever be forgotten in Ty and likely the whole county.
That was Carly Newton with the Plattsburgh Press Republican. She spoke with Kara Chapman.
Three people accused of participating in an international drug smuggling operation along the northern border have been arrested. According to the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Northern District of New York, the defendants are dual Canadian-American citizens living in Akwesasne. Investigators allege that 47-year-old Basil Lazor, 38-year-old Michael Arquette, and 81-year-old Patricia Ransom were involved in a smuggling network that moves drugs from Canada into the United States through Akwesasne. Federal officials say they plan to exchange methamphetamine for firearms. All three were charged with conspiracy to possess with the intent to distribute controlled substances. Lazor and Arquette are facing a minimum 10 years to life in prison and up to a $10 million fine. Ransom faces 5 to 40 years in prison.
A school district in Lewis County has been ordered to pay $3.5 million to a former student who said a teacher sexually abused him. WWNY-TV reports it comes following a jury trial in state Supreme Court last month. The plaintiff, identified in court documents as E.L., says he was 9 years old in 1981 when his third-grade teacher, Betty Champagne, began sexually abusing him at Harrisville Central School. In his lawsuit against the district, E.L. said his family reported the abuse to the school principal, who allegedly took no action against Champagne. E.L. claims the principal also threatened that he would have to repeat third grade, quote, if he continued to complain. E.L. said the abuse continued for 2 more years. His lawsuit argued the district failed to protect him and other students from Champagne by allowing her to remain a teacher. Champagne worked at Harrisville Central School District for 31 years, according to her obituary. She died in 2018.
A civic center in the Adirondacks will display a new mural to commemorate a historic battle on Lake Champlain. According to the Sun Community News, 2 art teachers at Osable Valley Central School got a $10,000 grant for the project. After visiting the Lake Champlain Maritime Museum, some of their high school students painted individual tiles depicting different scenes from the 1776 Battle of Valcour. The local contractors and archaeologists also contributed to the project. An unveiling ceremony is planned for October at the Civic Center in Keysville to celebrate the artwork in honor of America's 250th anniversary. This is NCPR.
You're listening to Northern Light here on North Country Public Radio. It's 8:19. I'm Monica Sandreski.
And I'm Catherine Wheeler. Stick around after the show for Bird Note coming up at 8:42. With our eyes to the skies, sunset in Moores is at 8:15 tonight, and the moon is a last quarter moon.
More nice weather is on tap today. Muggy weather is coming back tomorrow, though, along with hit-or-miss showers and afternoon thunderstorms. Highs in the 80s to near 90 degrees, along with the humidity, will make borderline hot conditions more uncomfortable tomorrow. Last check today, though, it was 71 degrees in Potsdam, 54 degrees in Old Forge right now, 65 degrees in Glens Falls, and 69 degrees at the base of Whiteface Mountain.
Well, these hot summer days might make us crave some lighter and fresher fare for dinner, making it a great time to take advantage of the produce at our local farmers markets. Curtiss Hemm is the executive chef at the View Restaurant in Lake Placid and the founder of the Carriage House Cooking School in Peru. And he joins us every month to share a seasonal recipe using as many local ingredients as possible. Chef Curtiss, good morning.
Good morning. How are you two?
We're doing well. So you've brought us a recipe for paillard. What is that?
So I call it a summer schnitzel. So I love schnitzel. I like kind of pressed pounded meat. And this is a paillard is basically the same cut. It's an escallop, like a thin slice of meat that's pounded, but it's meant for the grill. So it's not meant to be breaded and sautéed. So a paillard is specific that it's a thin cut of meat, pounded or denatured, and then it's meant for quick cooking on a grill. So that is what a paillard is. So you can do a paillard out of chicken, pork, beef, salmon, you name it. So.
And what does pounding meat flat do? Why do you do that?
So basically, a cut like an escallop is off what I call an exercise muscle, so something that is used often. And pounding denatures. So when I say denature, I mean it physically changes or chemically changes the structure of meat. So when you pound meat, you're actually tenderizing it. So anything that breaks a cell structure open tenderizes meat.
Delicious.
And it lengthens it. So from a chef's perspective, it also provides plate coverage. So.
Yeah, I've when you mentioned the summer schnitzel, I've seen this like kind of style of food. It's a pretty simple recipe, pounded meat, grill it, and mix a salad. It kind of goes on the side or on top. And while the grill's on, could you also take advantage of like throwing on any in-season produce? And I was wondering what some of your faves are.
Well, tonight I'm going to make this tonight. So I'm actually picking up my farm share from Meadow Farmstead in Ausable. So tonight I'm going to do this. I've got some inside information on what's in my farm share. So I'm going to have some sliced tomatoes. I'm going to do some Roma beans, some fresh basil, some very thinly shaved fennel. I'm going to do that on a mandolin. And then I'm going to mix it with some really good Parmesan Reggiano, some balsamic vinegar, olive oil. I've got some really good stuff that I'm sampling from a purveyor. And then a little bit of orange juice, because I think orange juice is kind of the sleeper in this whole recipe. So we're very familiar with lemon juice, but orange juice is so accessible and so mild from a citrus flavor. It really brings things forward, in particular when you have another acid like tomato. And then I'm also going to do pine nuts, and I like toasted pine nuts. So.
Well, could you go ahead and walk us through this recipe?
Yeah, so the first thing you want to have, obviously, is a thinly pounded piece of meat. You could also do this with a portobello mushroom. So if you're a vegetarian, that's completely fine. I don't think you're going to pound a portobello, but you can slice it thin, or just have a grilled portobello. That's fine. So we're going to grill the meat. While that's grilling, we're going to assemble basically our salad. And I have 3 flex ingredients here. So the flex ingredients can change with whatever you have. That's the spinach and the arugula and the tomatoes. So in the winter, I pretty much always go with spinach, arugula, and sun-dried tomatoes, because I do this in a grill pan as well in the winter, because it is so quick and I'm not worried about smoking up my house. So I take that mixture of greens and sun-dried tomatoes, and then I mix it with the pine nuts, the Parmesan cheese. I save the balsamic vinegar a little bit for a drizzle as well, and then the orange juice. I toss that, and then once the food is done, like the meat is done, after you flip it, cook it. It's about 2 minutes aside because it cooks so quick. I put that on a plate, and then I put that entire combination on the paillard, and I want it to wilt a little bit. I want it to kind of steam up and soften, and that's one of the beautiful things about this dish is it's super, super easy to do. You are going to also denature some of the vegetables that are there as well, and you're going to provide a different texture because not all of them are going to wilt, only the stuff that's in contact with the meat. So you got a variety of texture and flavor and aroma from that, and it works out really, really well. You can substitute thigh if you don't want chicken breast. You can do that, but you really, once you pound out a chicken breast and slice it thin, you're not going to notice that. And then I figured you're going to ask me about beverages. Just I had a hunch.
We're not that predictable.
Always.
So over the hill to Grandma's house, I go to Ausable Brewing, and I want something light with this. So I love, since the minute they brewed it, the Plowman's Lunch Pilsner. I absolutely love that beer. I would do that, and then I like to keep it in New York. So Damiani out of the Finger Lakes. I would do their Viano Bianco or their Pinot Gris. Something really light and crisp and just good acid to that.
Mm-hmm. That sounds really fresh. So you mentioned, this is pretty simple. You mentioned some pretty basic ingredients, but it also seems to me that this is a recipe you could do with a lot of different flavor profiles. You could make it more Southeast Asian inspired with some Vietnamese sauces, or more Italian. Are there different profiles that you think could work for something like this to mix it up throughout a week if this was something you could have kind of all week long?
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously, you could think red sauce Italian. You could do tomato basil. You could almost do a Parmesan out of this. I would do it like a deconstructed, where you have a raw marinara. So basically get some really fresh tomatoes, heat up your olive oil, some garlic, and then pour that over your tomatoes with some basil. And then I would do slices of fresh mozzarella or mozzarella balls on there, or even burrata would be great. If you want to go Southeast, or if you want to go Asian, I won't say Southeast because I off the top of my head can't delineate the two, but I would do cilantro, maybe some fresh lemongrass. My neighbor used to grow it all the time. Thai basil that you can get, and then maybe some fish sauce, some brown sugar, some hoisin, a little sesame oil, sesame seed, mix that up, put it on top, because keep the meat neutral and then enhance it with what you have. I guess I hit two that you mentioned, but I could go on and on just off the top of my cuff, and the way the brain works this morning, it's a little slower.
Totally understand. But I think this is I think you present us with a lot of different recipes that allow people to learn a technique and then try new things, be creative with their cooking and experiment a little bit in kind of a low stakes way.
Yeah. And I think, at the core of the Carriage House, that's what it is. I always say that all of our recipes are relevant, actionable, and accessible. And I love technique. So I grew up reading Jacques Pepin. And of all my mentors, I mean, I've got a pretty good local mentor, Paul Sorgel, but of the media mentors, Jacques Pepin was always technique, technique, technique. And I teach it today to my own workforce. It's once you know how to cook, you can cook anything. And this is a simple recipe, but it has a broad range of uses. You could find yourself in the marketplace and find a skirt steak, or maybe you find short ribs because you went to a butcher and all of a sudden they did Korean cut short ribs and you're I don't know what to do with this. Well, cook it quick or cook it long, play with it, but then have something that goes with that. I mean, Korean short ribs are fantastic and they don't need a lot and they don't need to be cooked well done. They can be flash seared, flipped, and then have a presentation like this with them. There's so many things that you can do. And once you're willing to experiment and the failure risk is low or unconcerned, then you really kind of grow your own repertoire.
Absolutely. Chef Curtiss Hemm is the executive chef at the View Restaurant in Lake Placid and the founder of the Carriage House Cooking School in Peru. He joins us every month to share a seasonal recipe using as many local ingredients as possible. Thanks, Chef Curtiss.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Support for Northern Light comes from Point Positive, offering entrepreneurs mentoring, education, and startup funding. PointPositiveADK.com. And from Lake Placid Sinfonietta, live orchestral music in the heart of the Adirondacks through August 16th. Performance schedule and more at lakeplacidsinfonietta.org. That's it for the show for the day. I'm Monica Sandreski.
And I'm Catherine Wheeler. Be well.